In this video, I'm going to give you a quick overview of the virus control plugin, which has received a significant makeover, as it happens, for the release of OS 3.0. So we always start here on the Easy page, which contains a small selection of parameters which will allow you to tweak most sounds in an interesting way without having to delve too deeply. Over here, we have the part column, which contains all the information, the status information for each of the 16 parts of the virus TI. To focus the editing that you're doing in virus control on a particular part, then you need to first click the large numbered button that corresponds to that part. Now each part here has its own mute button, direct recording button, which is for playing with no latency, which is particularly important if you're recording, and load and save menu, volume slider, and pan position controller. I'm just going to load up a sound from the recently used menu now, and just quickly show you the big controller here, which is the filter cutoff. So you can sweep the cutoff with the big controller there, also resonance. If you prefer, you can also sweep the little square around here. It's also worth playing around with the soft knobs, especially if they've been named, and these have been assigned in nearly all of the presets in the virus ROM. So here, let's see what Elevate does. Decay. Effects. Now, the browser page is a very important page indeed, because it contains the patch libraries, and it's where you can manage all of your sounds. Now, first of all, let's choose my patches folder, like that. You can also just use the little tabs to browse through them like this. Now, you can click on a patch in one library like this and drag it across to another library like that. You can also rearrange the patches within a bank by just dragging them and pulling them to another position, and you'll see that the patches have just swapped now. You can delete the highlighted patches, say like that, and you can also undo the last operation if you realise that was a horrible mistake. To select several patches, just shift click like this, and then you can drag lots of them across like that, and I'll also undo that. You can select whole banks quite easily and just drag and drop them like so. You can select by, search by category. So just choose a category from the list there. You can also choose from a search string like this. Let's choose, for example, bass. And you'll see all the patches which have got the sequence of letters BASS in the title in one form or another, are now listed for me in two separate pages under search results. You can also save your patches that you've been editing by dragging it across from the part pane like this into the specific location you want it here. The oscillator page contains all of the parameters for the oscillator menu. The two main oscillators are here on either side, and they both have a big controller as well, which, as its size would suggest, does something important to each oscillator type. For example, in the classic oscillator, it controls the wave shape. You can see the little graphic changing there as I move it around. In the hypersaw oscillator, it controls the number of saws. And in the wave table, you use it for sweeping the index. You've got some common parameters here like portamento and FM and oscillator sync. The controls for oscillator 3 are down here. You'll find, you can see that a lot of the controls are greyed out at the moment. That means that they're not available because that particular function isn't enabled. If I select something for oscillator 3 like that, you can now edit it. In the mixer section, you can control the balance between the oscillators, the overall volume, and also add some noise and ring modulation if you like. The filter page contains not only all the parameters for the filter section, but also the filter envelope and amplifier envelope. The big controller, again, sweeps the cutoff of the filter, like that. And you can also, like we did on the easy page, just grab the little square and sweep resonance and cutoff at the same time. In the middle here, you can choose the routing for the filters, the saturation type, etc. To edit the envelopes, you can either use the knobs, like so, or you can grab the little squares and drag them around, like that. In the LFO page, we have a section here for each of the independent LFOs. LFO 1 has its own rate controller there. You select the wave, like so. Just click on the picture. If you want any of the more esoteric ones in the spectral wave selection, then just grab the name like this and drag it up, and you can see them all in the display like that, and just stop when you see the one you want. To enable the clock for the LFO, click on clock there and select from the list, and you'll see now that the rate controller selects the clock divider. Over here we have all the hardwired parameters for LFO 1, and you can also assign one sort of user-defined target from the modulation list, like so. In the mod matrix, you choose the source of the modulation, for example, mod wheel here, and underneath you can choose up to 3 separate parameters to be modulated by this one controller. So you select the list like this, choose the parameter you want, and then set either positive modulation depth by sliding this way, or negative modulation depth by sliding this way. Notice you've got all sorts of controllers you can choose, like real-time, mod wheel and aftertouch, or channel pressure as it's called here, or the LFOs and amp envelopes and stuff like that. The arpeggiator page, first of all you need to select an arpeggiator mode like that. Then you can select any one of the 64 patterns, or you can also select user, and then you have the pattern editor become available, like so, and you switch on the steps like so. Select the overall pattern length with this as well. I tend to keep them nice and short because I'm lazy. You can could set the relative velocity of each step with the controller at the top, and the relative length with the controller underneath, or if you prefer you can just grab and drag like that. The FX1 page contains the characters, the chorus, distortion, phaser, frequency shifter and ring modulator there, 3-band equalizer, input, including atomizer, and the envelope follower. On the subject of the inputs, actually, we now have sidechaining available, depending on which host you're working in, though. You can see in Logic's plugin window up here, we have the sidechain selector, which you can either choose none or input 1 or 2, like that. And that allows you to run an audio signal through the from within the software sequencer through the inputs of the virus. So you can process it with the filters and all these fantastic effects that we have now. On the FX2 page, we have the delay. Here, these big ones are the send and the reverb. The delay now includes the tape delay, of course. And lastly, we have the vocoder. In the common page, you've got some very important performance parameters like the patch transpose, which is determined in semitones. If you want to go up or down an octave, go up in steps of 12 like that. And key mode is an important parameter you'll want, which determines whether the patch is polyphonic or monophonic. You can also select the output for each part. So if you want the analog outputs, then you choose one from the out list here. And if you want the USB again, you select from here. If you like, you can also reassign your soft knobs here to anything from a large list of possible destination parameters, and also choose a suitable name. In the Patch Utility tab, we have the configuration page, which allows you to choose which input-output configuration you want. If you want sidechaining to work at all, then you're going to need to use 3 outs and 1 input. And lastly, we have the remote page, which allows you to select from a list of predefined templates here for using the hardware interface of the virus to control your software synths. You can also use the editor we've provided here to create your own templates. Now, lastly, I'd like to just run over a couple of little features. We've got Live. This enables you to get better performance in certain software hosts. Refer to the tutorial for your host to find out whether it's what you want. We have the information bar along here. What happens is if I hover over a parameter, you can see that it tells you what it is and what value it's currently assigned to. But also, very importantly, in brackets, it has the original value that was stored with the patch you're currently editing. That means if you mess something up, it's easy just to kind of set it to where you had it before, like that. Here we have a question mark, and this gives you a direct link to all the documentation and tutorials, and including the video tutorials, and direct links to the Access Music website, and even straight to download the latest TI software. Also, you may have noticed that the parameters are all arranged in sort of little groups or sections. And if you double-click on one of those, you'll see a little padlock symbol appear, and that means that that section is now locked. So when I browse through the patches, all of those parameters will remain exactly the same until I say otherwise. You can also, by right-clicking or control-clicking, you can choose from presets, like you can lock the entire oscillator section or the entire filter section, etc. Or you can also manage what you've done by unlocking sections, etc. So I hope that gives you an idea of what virus control is all about. If you want a more specific tutorial, they will be arriving regularly on the Access Music website. And if you need immediate detailed information on any of these features, then please refer to the documentation which was supplied with the download of OS 3.0.